I am live for the second edition or second episode of Questions with Nyime. It is a pleasure for me to be live again. I am still very excited by this whole concept. It's still very new, but I'm actually really enjoying having these conversations, asking these questions and seeing what people have to say about them. And so we're going to tackle Wednesday's question, Thursday's question, and Friday's question, which is today. So I'm going to wait a few minutes, in fact, just 1 minute actually. I don't want to keep people too long. I want to be able to talk about everything as well. So I'm going to wait for 1 more minute for people to jump on. And yeah, just put this in questions. One, two. Right, about 30 more seconds, but my questions, let me hear. Keep seeking and you'll find my dear. All that you need to know, it will unfold. Boom, boom, boom. Keep walking with the lights. Guys, this week, I've actually had a little bit of a cold. I don't like confessing that I have any sort of like cold, whatever it is. I'd rather just say I am well because that's the reality that I want. But if I have to go off camera to quickly dab my nose, please forgive me. Like now. Just give me a moment. Right. I've got my little tissue here, but anyway, let's get started. So, just a recap of the first episode. The first question was, do you believe in the one? And the second question was, first dates. Who pays, basically? First date etiquette. And it was a great conversation. The question I asked next, so question number 3, which I asked on Wednesday, was about online dating. Is it a blessing or a curse, right? So, I think that this question is probably better answered by somebody who's actually experienced online dating, because I have never dated online. My husband and I started dating when we were 23. I was 23. And so, which feels like ages ago now. But I do remember even at that time having conversations with people about online dating. And I remember one particular lady that went to the church that I attended at the time. She had met someone online and was actually getting married to the person. I think they were actually planning their wedding around the time that Dami and I started dating. So I knew that there were obviously some positive stories from online dating. And I guess for people who may feel like they are not meeting that many people in their everyday life, you know, you wake up, you get ready, you go to work, you know, you come back, you might go out to the gym, you might go out with friends, but you're not necessarily meeting people, meeting a wide variety of people, basically, and those that have your kind of ideals, in the sense of like maybe looking for a long-term relationship, looking to get married. You know, I think online dating provides that platform whereby you can connect with millions of people, essentially. And out of the millions of people that you could potentially connect with through the internet, you're bound to find somebody, right? I mean, I guess that would be the idea. But, you know, even though there's positive stories, there are also negative ones as well. I have friends that are dating online or have dated online, and I've heard some of the stories. And yeah, well, let's just say that people are mad. You know what I mean? Like, people are actually mad. Like, I've heard stories of guys. So I'm obviously my friends, not obviously, but my friends are girls that I'm speaking to, or women, should I say. I've heard stories of guys approaching them or having a conversation with a guy and him pretending to be something that he's not. You know, people have different morals and different principles. And, you know, whereas some people will pretend that they are aligned with your morals and principles, later down the line, you know, their true colours show. And it turns out that they're not. Like, I know women who are like, you know, Christian, or like, you're women of faith, and they're looking for a man who's like, who's a Christian too, or who's a man of faith, like actually has a relationship with the Almighty. And it turns out that these people, whilst they may profess something, they actually are not really living it, you know. And it's a real shame. It's actually a real shame. There's also the occurrence of men who are just looking for a wife. Maybe just looking for a wife, not necessarily looking to be a husband though, right? So, you know, particularly men that may have a certain cultural background, for want of a better way of putting it, they are looking for a wife who can do a traditional wife, right? But they're not prepared to be a husband to this particular person. Now, the woman in question has got her stuff together. She's working. She is, you know, maybe got her own place, whatever it is. Like, she's worked hard and she's in a position where she doesn't really need a man, right? But this person is coming to people like that and then not really bringing anything to the table, right? And so these are stories I hear, like, and I'm thinking to myself, like, as much as somebody might want to get married and, you know, and settle down with somebody, it's really not worth doing that with somebody who is not right for you. And I think that I'm always proud of people that I know who are like, you know what? No. No, because I know there's people out there that, you know, they settle, unfortunately. Like, the pressure of life, the pressure of, you know, being a woman, the biological clock, all of that stuff can pile pressure on a woman. And I'm really proud of women who say, actually, no, you know, being with the right person is greater to me, or is more important to me than marrying somebody who's not really prepared to be a husband, like wants me to be a wife, but not really prepared to be a husband. So when it comes to online dating, and hi guys who have joined, I just think that it can be a blessing, but it can also be a curse. It's obviously, there are people who have success stories. There are people who are who benefit from online dating. They've met people from various different platforms, because obviously you've got dating apps. This is what I've been told, like Tinder, which are not really for like long term dating. It's more like, you know, you want to, you know, meet up briefly, you know. But then you've got obviously longer term like apps like Bumble, I believe, Hinge. I've heard a lot of good stories from Hinge as well. People are having long-term relationships from Hinge. So there's like different platforms and they have different USPs. But I've heard stories of people meeting people on Tinder, for example, like, and getting married, you know? So it just, I don't know, it just depends. I just think that ultimately, you know, as a person of faith, as a person that believes in the Almighty, I truly believe that no matter whether you're on these apps or not, you can meet the right person. And I just don't know. I don't know what anybody's story is, what anybody believes, but I think apps are just a way. They're just a medium. Do you get what I'm trying to say? I guess it can be a blessing, like I said, because you are exposed to so many different people. But then it can also be a curse. It can be disappointing. Perhaps you connect with somebody. I've heard stories of people connecting with people and then it just doesn't work out. Like, and then they're no longer on the apps anymore, you know? But I think that it, depending on the experience, depending on what people are looking for, I think it can actually fall in both categories of being a blessing and also a curse. I also think though that online dating, I think anything to do with technology, I find really kind of strips us of the beauty of like physical connections. Do you know what I mean? Like, I think that, you know, we're really in a technological age, and obviously like there's things like the metaverse and like you know, all these kind of like old like AI reality constructs that are being pushed. I feel like that physical connection that we all benefit from as people, I feel like that's being stripped. And I think that, you know, if I was to go on a date with someone, for example, and we're actually eating, there's so much more than just like conversation via text. Like your body language, I'm looking at how you conduct yourself. I'm getting a vibe from you. These are all things that when you're dating somebody physically, that you are able to pick up on. Do you get what I mean? That you can't really do with technology. And yeah, I don't know. I don't know. I mean, I guess that's in the wider context of technology. But I guess online dating, it will fall in the middle of that. And yeah, I just think it's great, I guess. But then it's also got its drawbacks. So I don't know what you guys think. Online dating, is it a blessing? Is it a curse? Have you dated online? Anybody that's on this live, any of the ladies, have you dated online? Please, can you share your experiences? Share your experiences of dating online. Have you met some decent guys on there, or some lowlifes on there? Please let me know. Do you think it's a blessing or do you think it's a curse? Let me know. Do you know of any success stories? Let me know. Put it in the the chat box below. But yeah, moving on to the second question I asked, which is question number 4 this week. I asked about, have the ideals of modern society affected the way that we date? And so when I thought about this question, hi Drea, and when I thought about this question, yeah, I was like, okay, what ideals am I actually referring to? But obviously in modern society, we've got women and men that basically, like, in a sense, they don't need each other in the same way, if that makes sense. Like, obviously with women's rights and the opportunities that are afforded to women, I know many women who are independent and they don't need a man, right? But perhaps want to be in a relationship, perhaps want to settle down, want to have children, all that kind of stuff. I think though that I've seen a lot of dialogue online, a lot of discourse, whereby people are talking about modern women and how modern women basically they ain't bleep. They ain't, do you know what I'm trying to say? Like, a lot of these men, millennial men, talking about modern women, but they're talking about modern women in a derogatory way, right? I think they call it red pill. I'm not really too sure of the terminology, but it from what I have come across, it sounds very misogynistic, and it sounds very kind of like, what can you bring to the table type conversation. And I guess putting all modern women in a box, assuming that quote unquote modern women don't want to do some of the traditional things. And, you know, like, I've heard discourse, for example, of men saying to women that, you know, even though the woman works, a man still wants a woman who will work, come home, cook, clean, look after the kids, and he's not raising a finger. Like, I just feel like that makes no sense to me. Like, if you really love this person, yes, traditionally the woman may have done everything, but I feel like because women are also working now, like, she's bringing, you know, income into the household. I feel like, I just don't understand how a husband that loves his wife will allow her to be doing all the housework, be looking after the children primarily, whilst he goes to work, comes back, just does what he wants to do. And, you know, I hear these people talk about these things and then say, oh yeah, well, my mother did it, or my grandmother did it, and so on and so forth. And it's kind of like, well, so what? Like, the fact that they did that is great, but how do you know that they wanted to do that? Or how do you know that they didn't fall into doing that because that was just a part of the society, that they couldn't actually talk about the fact that it was a lot. It's a lot of work. I'm not somebody that works at the moment. I'm primarily looking after my children, being a stay-at-home mom or whatever they call it, and it's hard work, man. It is hard work. It's the hardest thing. I think being a mom is the hardest thing I've ever done, right? It's the hardest, and I can't imagine being married to somebody who would just leave, like, not get involved. They wouldn't be hands-on, you know. It just doesn't make sense to me, and I feel like sometimes, like, we'll find this kind of like resurgence of men who want the traditional trad wife, and they just want her to be cleaning, cooking, doing all the things that she needs to do, and sitting down and be quiet. And I'm just like, that makes no sense to me. I feel like and I feel like it probably does affect dating today, because I think when it comes to being in a relationship, there's a lot to be said for emotional, like, maturity and mental maturity. And I feel like if you're coming into a relationship with, like, insecurity, I mean, we all have insecurities. I feel like these are things that you have to be actively working upon in a relationship in order for that relationship to grow and to thrive and to be successful and to be a happy relationship. And I find that if you've got a man who is insecure, for example, and he just wants a wife, he's not willing to do anything in the house, just wants to dominate and control, and, you know, you do what I want you to do, I feel like that's so problematic. And I think it's problematic because it's not always easy to uncover these people, if that makes sense. And so, you know, I think for a lot of quote unquote modern women, which I guess I would be in that category as well. You just want somebody that understands that, okay, if we're both working, for example, I want you to contribute. Do you get what I'm trying to say? At home as well. And I think that is not asking for too much. Do you get what I mean? I think that to have somebody who's actually a nice person, to have someone that's actually kind, to have somebody that actually loves their wife or their spouse. And I feel like it goes both ways. Like, as a wife, there are ways that I serve my husband. There are ways that, you know, because I love my husband, I do what I can to ensure that, you know, he has a great quality of life. Do you know what I mean? The way that I can serve him, it's a joy to me. It's a joy for me to do that. It's a joy for me to make his life easier, in the sense that, you know, he's my husband at the end of the day. You know what I mean? And equally, it's a joy for him to make my life easier as well. And I feel like just having that mutual love and respect, I feel like that is what many women, I know anyway, are looking for. And I'm sure there are great men out there as well. I don't talk to a whole lot of guys outside of my husband, obviously, but there are good men out there. There are great men out there who have these ideals as well. But yeah, I don't know. What do you guys think? Has the ideals of modern society affected dating? Like, let me know what you think in the comments. I'm just talking now, and I want to interact with you guys. So let me know what you think. What do you think of the red pill community? Have you heard of the red pill community? And I guess also with feminism as well. Whew, feminism. Hey, feminism. Now, obviously, you know what? Let me say something about feminism. The first time I came across feminism was in sociology, in AS levels in college, right? So I was what, 16 years old when I came across feminism and what feminism was. And it was very radical to me at the time. The way it was broken down to me at the time was very radical. As these women who literally want to live life independent of men. They want to be able to have babies, but they shouldn't be grown inside the woman's body. Like, they want the babies to be in test tubes. It was almost like, we just don't like men, basically. And I'm like, okay, this is a bit radical. But over time, I've come to understand feminism. To be fair, people have different opinions of it, and they have different definitions of it. But I have come to understand that, at least the definition of feminism that I align with most is basically there being a level of opportunities afforded to women, basically. So women are able to work, women are able to kind of have Yeah, equal opportunities. That's really kind of what it's about. So men and women are equal in that sense. They may have different roles. And I do believe in the kind of like different role type thing, because I do believe like men are made in a certain way. Like I've got two, like for example, I've got two children. Three children. A boy, two girls and a boy. And they're different. Like they're different. But the boy is different from the girls and the girls are different from the boys. Obviously they get along, but they're different. And so I think there's nothing wrong with embracing the differences that the sexes have. But I think that when it comes to feminism, it's about, obviously the feminism that I align with, it's about understanding that there's equality between the two sexes, and men not withholding opportunities from women and so on and so forth. I don't know if I call myself a feminist, to be honest with you, because sometimes I hear some certain types of rhetoric that I don't actually agree with. And I feel like sometimes the ideology in some ways doesn't make sense to me. But I've heard that the red pill community is almost like an attack on feminism. But yeah, I found, sorry about that, guys. But yeah, so there's so many elements to this conversation, so please chip in where you can. Have the ideals of modern society affected dating? So let me know what you guys think. It is 10 to 9 now, so we're gonna move on to the last question, which is the question I asked today. Is it better to marry young or to marry older? So I did post like a few answers to that. One person had married at 25, and they said that that marrying young can be good, but there has to be a commitment towards counselling and growth in that area, I guess as individuals and a couple. But then also somebody else said, who was married at 21, that marriage is overrated. So I don't know what you guys think. Like, let me know what you guys think. What is the red pill? Okay, so the red pill community, as I understand it, right, is basically a ideology that I see not a lot of actually, but some modern men spouting, that is trying to be, I guess it's almost like anti-feminism. And I find that a lot of the rhetoric when it comes about the red pill community is all about bashing modern women and how modern women are not as great as they think they are. It's coming against a lot of quote unquote modern ideologies, in that independent women, all that kind of stuff. And I guess it advocates more for a traditional setup, right? And yeah, so that's the best way I can describe it. I'm not as well versed in the ideology. I don't know if that's the best description, but like I seem to come across some of these podcasts and I'm just like, okay. I apologize, guys. Am I back? I find that the red pill aspect of things is very divisive. I think that you can get men that aren't, great, and women that aren't great as well. And I feel like the genders work best together. But yeah, I find that some of the rhetoric is quite divisive. Okay, guys, I do apologize. My connection for some reason is messing up. But yeah, anyway, that's how I understand the red pill. Apology. I don't think there is a correct age to get married, old or young. Yeah, I'm inclined to agree with you, because I think it depends on the person. But I got married at 26. So I was 2 months shy of 25. I got married at 26. And there was a lot of growth that I did within marriage that I wouldn't have minded doing before I got married, if that makes sense. I feel like marriage in so many ways, for me, I don't know if a lot is discussed about what goes into making a marriage work. I think the idea of marriage is taught to us like it's a societal ideal. I guess maybe not as much now as it was then, but as a societal ideal, it's something to aspire towards. If you were raised in church, if you're a Christian, like for example, like that's something that you're gonna do. You're gonna grow up, you're gonna get married. Also culturally as well, from like Nigerian background, like that's, you know, the desire of your parents for you to meet someone, marry, and so on and so forth. But I don't think there's a lot that goes into talking about what it takes to make a marriage work. And I think it's a shame, because I find that there's a lot of people of my generation, I'm a millennial, who are getting divorced. Like, I mean, the divorce rate is already 50% anyway. But in our generation, I'm finding that people aren't staying married for as long. And I find like, I don't know if the age that you get married has, I think it does. I think it might have something to do with that, to be honest with you. I don't know if everybody has that emotional maturity, that in mental maturity, spiritual maturity to sustain a marriage. And I think that as you get older, I'd love to believe that people start to be a bit more self-aware. There's a lot more like personal growth and development. So much so that I feel like you can show up in a marriage more authentically. You can show up in a marriage and having a bit more of an awareness of yourself and what you like, do you know what I mean? Like, there's people who, like, for example, I know who've been together since they were young, and they're married now, but it's like you've lived your life that long with a person, and it's like, do you know who you are? Do you get what I mean? I feel like if you are older, you have more time to understand who you are and to know yourself and to know your quirks, your strengths, your weaknesses, to have boundaries. You know what I mean? You're not dealing with like, I think, yeah, like there's a lot of things, the growth that takes place. I think it contributes positively to marriage. I'm not knocking getting married young, because I think some people are really suited to it. Some people, like, they are for the married life. And obviously if you get married younger, it means you can start your family earlier, for example, which means that they grow up and you're still kind of fairly young. You can still live your life. I mean, there's lots of, I guess there's benefits to it. I guess building, finance, generational wealth and all that kind of stuff. You can start doing that from early on. And I think that working as a team in marriage can contribute to that. So those are my thoughts. But yeah, let me know what you guys think. Rashida, men that want a woman that works and contributes, are they ready for other areas to not get as much attention, i.e. cleaning, time with kids? Well, this is it, to be honest with you. And it's scary though, because I do hear people say like, okay, yeah, she should work and still come back and do all those things. And I'm just like, but do you actually love this person? Do you actually want to be married to somebody and help pour into them and cultivate them, or you just want a wife, like a maid? Do you get what I mean? That's a good question. Balaji, for me, it's about maturity. Yes, I agree with you. Some people grow in maturity earlier than others. I think you shouldn't get married until you are mature enough. But the thing is, Balaji, how do you know you're mature enough until you get into the marriage? This is the question. Do you know what I'm trying to say? Because marriage will test you. Like, there's a level of understanding of self and awareness of self that you have before you get married. And then marriage just comes and it slaps you in the face. And it's like, actually, you thought you were patient, yeah? You're not as patient as you thought you were. Do you get what I mean? But I do agree with you. I feel like there are, if people are more mature, younger, at a younger age, they've had a level of character development at a younger age, I think it can work. I definitely think it can work, and the marriage can thrive and be successful. But yeah, I don't know. I'm not sure if many are willing to pick up on those areas. You have to have a level of maturity before getting married. It's not so much a number age thing. Yeah, that's exactly what we were just saying. Like, I do think maturity is a big thing, and that is not necessarily dependent on age. You can get people who are very mature earlier than others. So I got married at 26. My husband was 25 when we got married. 25 apparently is quite young for a guy to get married, but we were very kind of like, we understood what we were getting into. And so even though we were fairly young, I think that we went in with the right mindset and, the ability to work on ourselves as well as obviously work on, our relationship. So yeah, marriage is not without its ups and downs, as those who are married would know. But yeah, I think maturity is a big thing. So age, I don't know. you know, I see both sides. I guess I see both sides. I do think, yeah, there's a certain level of maturity that comes with age, a certain awareness that you have of yourself when you get older, perhaps. I don't know. But yeah, thanks for your comments, guys. So yeah, I think those are all the questions that we dealt with. So the first one was online dating, blessing or a curse. Second one was the ideals of modern society affecting dating. And the third one was marrying young or marrying older. Gabrielle, I think marrying old/young are both blessings. If the marriage is God orchestrated and the couple are following the Holy Spirit, then I think it can work regardless of age. I agree with you. I do believe that God is in it, like, and both parties have their own relationship with God, like actual relationship, and they are looking to God for guidance and for direction. The things that we may come into the marriage that without, I think he would enable us to grow in those areas. But yeah, like following the Holy Spirit. I mean, let me be honest with you, because sometimes, you know, I'm not always following the Holy Spirit. I should be. Sometimes it's not really what I'm doing. But generally, I agree with what you're saying. I think that it's true. I do believe that, you know, I generally, people who don't necessarily know God, like, I'm like, how do you do this? How do you do it? But yeah, I think that's a great comment. Thanks for sharing that. Yeah, I think I've answered everything. But yeah, this is a great live, guys. Thank you for sharing. Thank you for coming on board. Thank you for your comments. And yeah, let's keep talking. Let's keep the conversation going. Unless there's anything else that anybody wants to share. I don't want to keep you guys too long. It's already like half an hour that's passed. Yeah, if there's any other comments or questions, I'll wait for a few seconds. Great conversation. Yay, I'm glad that you enjoyed it, Balaji. I'll see you on the next one on Tuesday, yeah? Drea, if marriage is overrated, what is the alternative if you want to have kids? Well, this is it, because not everybody believes in marriage. Do you know what I mean? Some people have children and they're not married. But obviously, if you have like values whereby you want to bring kids into a marriage, you know, relationship, then there is no other alternative, really, to be honest with you. I am an advocate for having both parents in the home, and ideally both parents married. I think it's a great example for our children to see. And yeah, I think depending on what your ideals are, yeah, that question is dependent on that. But yeah, do you know what? I don't think it's overrated. And I think this is something else I'll touch on. That society, I feel like, historically has given marriage a bad rap. And I think that, you know, for example, when you're dating, it's all like, you know, infatuation, it's butterflies, it's really like exciting and all that kind of stuff. But then when people get married, like I think in the media, at least, you just see the marriages, people like the husband and wife are always arguing, they're not seeing eye to eye, you know, the one is exasperated, the other one is frustrated, the woman has lost herself, the guy is, you know, maybe perhaps looking elsewhere, like, you know. I don't think that society in general has the best picture of marriage or the best kind of like portrayal of marriage. But I think marriage is beautiful, you know, not can be, it is beautiful. And I think it is absolutely dependent on the two individuals in the marriage, their mindset on marriage. I think their connection with the Almighty, with the Creator, with God. I think that's very important. I think what they are able to do in terms of working on themselves, because marriage will show you who you are, and you know, and you are gonna grow. you're gonna have to. But also, yeah, pouring into the marriage, because obviously I kind of see it like it's like a garden, right? You go into the garden, but then if you're not continuously working on the garden, if you're not taking out the weeds, if you're not replanting, repotting, if you're not, mowing the lawn, if you're not doing all these things, then the garden is going to overgrow. It's not going to be a nice place to be in anymore. And I think when marriages break down, I think it's a shame, because at some point perhaps one party stopped investing. Do you know what I mean? One party chose to coast. Do you get what I mean? I just don't think you can coast in marriage. I feel like you've got to be proactive. I think you've got to have the thought established on the inside of you that your marriage can be beautiful and that you can be happy and your marriage can thrive. And I know for me, like, I was challenged in this area actually, because sometimes, me and my husband, we might get into it, you know what I mean? But I was challenged with how I think about certain things, you know what I mean? Like, I was really challenged, like, if I'm thinking negatively about a certain aspect of my marriage, like, and I was challenged to think positively about it, because I truly believe your thoughts are powerful, and your thoughts will create your actions, which will create the environment that you're now in. So I've been so challenged to think positively about everything, not even just marriage, but everything in my life. And it has been a beneficial thing to do. It's been a habit that has been a blessing to me. Do you know what I mean? But yeah, I don't think it's overrated. I really don't. And I think there's so many amazing marriages. Marriages go through different seasons. They go through storms. They go through happy times, not so happy times. But I always think it's amazing when you see couples who've been together for like 50 years or 30 years, 40 years. And they're still there, like they're still friends. They still like each other. Do you get what I mean? They've like had their children. They've, gone through all the stages of having kids, and the kids might have left the home. Then maybe they're now grandparents. I just think it's beautiful to have that person, you know what I mean, that you've lived life with, or even experienced that. Obviously, unfortunately, sometimes, people lose their spouses. But I think it's great to have experienced that. So yeah, I'm an advocate for marriage, man. I'm an advocate for it. You know what I mean? I really, really am. And I look at my husband, I'm like, you're a good man. You're a really, really good man. I'm really blessed. Don't tell him I said that. But I'm really blessed to have you. Do you know what I mean? And I believe he's blessed to have me as well. Do you know what I mean? And so, the fact that we are willing to keep on working at it. I said to him one time, I said, fam, if we were to ever, like, God forbid we get a divorce, yeah, it ain't going to be me filing for divorce. It's not going to be me. Do you get what I mean? Because all I know is that I'm going to work at it. Whatever area I need to grow in, whatever I need to change and develop on myself, whatever habits I need to adopt, that's what I'm going to do, because I'm in this thing for life. That's what I said at the altar. I said, for better, for worse, for richer, for poorer. What did we say? Those people that are married, you remember? For richer, for poorer, in sickness and in health. That's what I said at the altar. So that's what I'm sticking with. But yeah. But this conversation has been great, guys. Thank you for your comments. And yes, I will see you all. Unless there's any more comments, guys, I'll wait a few seconds. But yeah, it's been a great conversation. Your attitude is a good quality for a marriage to thrive. Thank you, Drea. And I'm sure you've got the same attitude as well. And the thing is, let me just caveat what I said, because obviously I'm not condoning staying in a marriage that is abusive, staying in a marriage where, a guy is not treating a woman right, or a woman's not treating a man right. There's just all sorts of rubbish going on. Like, I'm not advocating that in any way, shape or form. The hardships of marriage are not broadcasted, so it's possible to get into a marriage and be shot. Yes, this is what I was touching on. We don't talk enough about that stuff, and I don't think it would put people off. I just think it would prepare them in the best possible way. I mean, there's things like premarital counselling. I don't know how much you can really do in premarital counselling, though, to be honest, because it's for a finite period of time. You can't really touch on absolutely everything, but I do think that conversation needs to be had so much more so. Not necessarily just focusing on the hardships though either, but focusing on the beautiful aspects of it as well. But Like, you know, this is a work. This is work as well. This is work. Like, it's not about just getting married and having your pictures on like Bella Niger or Instagram or whatever. Like, because what I find now with this generation and social media and the way social media has rewired a lot of the brains, a lot of our brains for millennials. I don't know. I'm not saying millennials. I was going to say millennials downwards, but I feel like it's everybody really. Like, we want to have these Instagrammable pictures. You want the dress to be Instagrammable, the suit to be Instagrammable, the venue to be Instagrammable. And really, that shouldn't really be the focal point. I'm all for having a wedding that you love and, you know, decor that you love and a dress that you love. But I just think that we can't glamorize it more than we discuss like what is involved in the marriage. Because you got married, yeah, but your marriage begins the following day, bruv. Like, it begins the following day. And you hear stories, man, of people literally ignoring all the red flags, getting married, and then discovering that it's a whole different thing. Do you get what I mean? Like, or people get married because they think it's going to cure promiscuity, for example. Please, we need to be discussing the fact that marriage will show you yourself. Like, if you think it's going to cure any habits that you have, it really is not going to do that. It's going to exacerbate them. So you better start working on those things before you get into marriage, or not go in with the mentality that marriage is going to fix anything. Marriage is just going to magnify who you are as a person. That's what it's going to do. And you can be very, very shocked. You get a rude awakening in marriage, bruv. Like, a rude awakening. Because, yeah. But if you have the maturity to look at yourself, really look at yourself and say, actually, okay, you know, it doesn't affect it doesn't affect my inherent worth and my inherent value, but there are things that I need to work on. Do you know what I'm trying to say? And I think for me, it's just being with somebody that is committed to working on themselves and working on the relationship. Do you know what I mean? I think that is one of the best attitudes to have in a marriage, to be honest with you. Haha, yes, much work is required. Hey, Rashida, it's required. But the thing is, like, you put the work in and you get the results. Do you get what I'm trying to say? You put the work in. And the thing is, one of the key things I'll touch on, time is just going, but it's getting juicy. One of the things I'll touch upon is vulnerability. Are you willing to be vulnerable? Like, that's a big one. Because I know for me, I really struggled with vulnerability for a long time before getting married. And it's like, you get married now and it's like, intimacy is about being vulnerable, and to be vulnerable with somebody, you have to feel that you're, you know, completely safe with that person. Do you get what I'm trying to say? And I think that, you know, sometimes people aren't even willing to go deep with themselves, and if you're not willing to go deep with yourself, how are you gonna go deep with your partner? I really believe that being married helps you to dig deep and to really excavate and to uncover and unearth the things that cause the way that you think or the way that you behave, you know what I mean, that can enable the marriage to be better and enable the marriage to, you know, grow from strength to strength. Do you know what I'm trying to say? Like, I look back now and I feel like I see the journey of marriage, and I am blessed and grateful that there's a level of understanding we have of each other. And we're not trying to change each other. I'm not trying to make my husband in my image. And he's not trying to make me in his image. You know, we are like appreciating each other's differences, understanding, okay, this is how he operates, this is how she operates. I think understanding is a really key thing as well. Vulnerability, understanding. Like, you know, I mean, there's so much we could talk about. But yeah, ultimately, I don't think it's overrated. You know, I see some great marriages. No matter what the media tries to tell us, there are great marriages out there. And there needs to be teaching on how to be vulnerable. Oh, yes. Rashida, there needs to be teaching on it, you know. There needs to be teaching on it because, you know, vulnerability, that's a whole nother topic. In fact, let me ask that question next week. We'll talk about vulnerability next week, because in relationships, because I think it's something to really unpack. to really, really unpack, like being naked and unashamed in a sense, like, you know, merging with that person, you know, becoming one in essence. I don't think it can be done without vulnerability, to be honest, but yeah, there does need to be teaching on it. But yes, I am going to love you guys and leave you guys, because again, I don't want it to be too long. I don't want you guys to be like, it's too long. But anyway, thank you again for your comments. I really appreciate them. Thank you for joining this live. It's been a blessing to have you guys on board. And yeah, I'll save it and I'm gonna post it for those people that may have missed it or just joined. But yeah, it's been a great conversation, guys. I love this. But yes, if you haven't listened to Questions, my new single, please listen to it. If you've listened to it, keep listening to it, keep streaming it up, you know? Do you know what I mean? It's encouraging to your girl. You know what I mean? It's encouraging. But yeah, thank you so much, guys. Yes, I'll post it, Lena. I'll post it. But yeah, thank you so much for joining me today, guys. And love to you guys. See you on Tuesday at 8:30. It's going to be great. We're going to talk about vulnerability next week. Vulnerability. That is the question I'm going to ask. I'm going to ask some questions about that in relationships. So yes, I will see you guys on Tuesday. But yeah, in the meantime, when I post these questions, you guys be commenting, you know, let me know what you're feeling before the live. You know what I mean? But yeah, take care, guys. Blessings. Bye.